Guys, thank you and welcome. This event actually is our first event for 2011. This marks the third year for the Hive in Brisbane after 2 successful years running about 20 events. So we'll just start with our usual survey. Can I have a hands in the air for those who are new? First ever Hive event. Wow, fantastic. Please come up later and tell me how you heard about this, that's great. Guys, basically, the Hive is a not-for-profit organisation. We run monthly events on the last Tuesday evening of every month. We seek out prominent entrepreneurs from the community who have interesting stories to tell and who are willing to come and give up their time and share those stories with us so that we can learn from those lessons. So you can always access our content online. The Hive is always free. So if you ever miss an event, if you have trouble hearing, if you want to have a look at our back catalogue, we always record the podcasts. And for about 75% of our events, we've also got video content online as well. So without further ado, this month we have Chris Kettle from My247. For most of you, if you've ever Googled a restaurant or a bar or any sort of hospitality venue in Brisbane and beyond, you've probably had a search result come up with My247. Chris has been around in the digital space since the late 1990s, trying different things. And he's got some very interesting stories to tell about the trials and tribulations along the way. So please welcome Chris Kettle from My247.
Okay, you can hear me okay? There's still some room down here, I think, so please make sure you can hear this. Great, thanks Mike, Nick and Walter for putting this on. When I first started, there weren't these type of events, and maybe if there were, things would have gone a bit quicker for me. Coincidentally, today is actually the 12th year anniversary when we registered the domain name brisbane247.com today. In 12 years, and I was talking to a guy last week, and he couldn't believe I've been doing it for so long. I mean, it does feel like yesterday still. I did have a lot more hair back then, but it really, as I'll talk about, the business and what we've gone through, it really has gone through a lot of generations of through the life cycle. And hopefully, whatever stage of your business you're at, you'll get something out of this. So as Mike kindly introduced, my name is Chris Kettle. I'm the co-founder of My247.com. If you don't know about our business, you will when I finish this presentation. Feel free to ask any questions as I go along. If I'm not explaining something, just wave your hand in the air. Hopefully we won't have any pauses like the Tony Abbott, shit happens. I can't do any worse than that, hey? Okay, but anyway, we're all so lucky to be here. Do you all feel lucky? The reason I say that is I get this all the time, that, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. I've just had a 4-week-old son, and I had some friends on the phone, on the weekend, and they were saying, you're so lucky that I can just come to the office 1 day a week at the moment. And it's like, yeah, I am so lucky. And in the past, 12 years, I've been able to lot of overseas trips for months at a time, and Chris is so lucky you can do this. Due to the nature of our business, there's a lot of VIP invites to events and restaurant openings, and wow, you're so lucky, right? But the reality is, behind the scenes, there's a lot of damn hard work, you know what I mean? And a lot of sacrifices I've been through, and a lot of you will be going through now or have already done that. From financial sacrifices, where your friends who had real jobs, were buying houses and cars and things, and you weren't, but you were smiling and just trying to pay your tab at the bar. To the time you sacrifice, whether it's hours after work, weekends. Also, like relationships, personally, family, a lot of sacrifices which normal people don't have to worry about so much. Also, one of my problems is I think about the business all the time. Trying to even go into the cinema, in there working, what can we be doing better? Surely we could try this, and it's a sacrifice at the end of the day. One of the other burdens, is also the responsibility of how the hell you pay everyone, all the time. As I will share with you in a little while, not always a fun experience, that one. Also sacrificing holidays as well. Another good friend of mine who's got a business, he tells me he gets a 2-day holiday every week. It's called a weekend. And that is the reality, especially in the early days. But on the other side, there was a good reward for what we do. For our business, it's great fun. I don't feel like I actually work. I actually love what I do, all the time. The real thing I get to do as well is actually make a difference in people's lives. The things that we can do to really help people, I'm very proud of. As I said, I've been able to travel internationally with the business. when we set up offices in Melbourne and Sydney a few years ago, I was able to live in Melbourne and Sydney for a year, and that was quite rewarding for me. And really, at the end of the day, it's that financial freedom goal we all have, where we can retire nice and early. That's one of the rewards why we bother doing this. But one of the other rewards, which I never thought about when I started the business, was working with all the hospitality venues, which are restaurants and bar owners like Greystone here, because they're all entrepreneurs at the end of the day as well. A lot of these small businesses are husband and wife teams who have just given up their jobs. Come on, honey, we're going to work together, it's going to be fun, and being able to meet all those people and hear their stories as well has just been fantastic, fantastically rewarding. So we're still here, we all want to be an entrepreneur? So I've got a few of these slides. For 12 years, there's a lot to remember, and it's kind of fun putting it together. I haven't given this presentation before, or spoken about this like this. So where did it all begin for me, right? I never set out to be an entrepreneur, I've never studied to be an entrepreneur. I don't think it's a label you can really give yourself. But with the birth of my son, I had my parents over and I was telling them that we speak at this Hive event and what's it about, speak to other entrepreneurs. And she said, my mother, so you're going to tell me about the story about selling neighbours' tapes? I was like, what? And she reminded me of when we used to come to Australia when I was young. Neighbours, Channel 10 show was 18 months ahead of the UK series. And UK people, it's like religion, they're obsessed. And recorded the neighbours' tapes and brought them back over to England and we could sell them, right? And so I got my cousin over here making these tapes, and a friend and I would video, VHS, duplicating these tapes. And that was my lemonade stand story, that's where it all started. From there, obviously I've got a background in IT, always had computers, and so I was doing PC support for friends and family, getting a bit of money that way. But really my first proper job, after schools, was in sales. This was selling double glazing on the phones, and to picture this, it's going into a room full of cubicles where you had like a directory just of names and numbers, and for 3 hours from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. You're on the phones and getting an appointment for a rep, and if you didn't get an appointment, you got fired. And so there's a lot of pressure on that, but it really taught me finding people selling windows while they're eating or watching the football. You cop a lot of abuse. You really know what rejection's like. But it really, to actually start making those sales, you had to learn what made people tick, and it was really by doing that sort of sales job, helped me with the business, because in your business, if you can't sell, there is no point. It's really invaluable, and I think sales, should be taught at school. It's not, and we use it every day of our lives. Either when you're going, for a job, or even on a bar on a Friday night, you're selling yourself. A lot of people just do sales because they don't know what else to do, and I think sales is a real profession. If you haven't, you're starting to think about selling, get the CDs and books from like Brian Tracy and other gurus. Getting an appointment is one thing, but converting them is another. And those CDs will increase your conversion rate, so well worth doing. So going on to university, doing IT, just because that was what I was good at. And I always liked to get into business through an IT job like that. So I was at university in Manchester. Again, one of the other jobs I took on was being a bookie, like working at the TAB. And this is my first job, dealing with a lot of money. And what do bookies really sell at the end of the day? All they do is sell a piece of paper with a promise on there of, you might win. Some people win, most people don't. And really, the tip there is no such thing as an easy buck. If there was, we'd all be doing it. There's a lot of hard work behind this. And one of the great things about this job was when I was in Manchester, the company Ladbrokes had the contracts for all the Premiership grounds, for the football. And I got to work at Man U, the ground, and taking the bets before the game. He was getting paid for it, no problem. But my first bit of networking was with the steward. He used to take people's tickets, from where I worked. And I said, look, please, is there any chance I can stand up at the top? I promise to be good behaviour. He's like, no problem. And so I got to watch every single Manchester United game in the away end, the season they won the treble. And really what that teaches you is, if you don't ask, you don't get. You know what I mean? And by the way, every time I say you know what I mean, you've got to drink. All right, that's I said to you. And you've already got your no answer. And seriously, if you don't ask, whether it is for a sale or for a relationship, you never get an answer, not a good answer. While I was at university, passion of mine is music, like nightclubs and things, and we didn't have any money, and the local nightclub in Liverpool, we found out, would give you £1 for every person you brought in. So me and a mate, it wasn't long, we had coach loads of people coming from Leeds, Manchester, going to Liverpool. We got £1 per person, so making like 60 quid a time, which was great, and we got VIP entry, and again, it's another little enterprise, which I never, until looking in hindsight, you don't really think about these things as little businesses. But from the degree, which I always thought was good to get that piece of paper, part of my degree in IT could work for a company for 12 months, so that's when I first came to Australia in Brisbane, and I got a 12-month placement with Energex, who we all know, and that was in the IT side of looking after all their billing and all their databases, and that was my first sort of understanding of sheer amount of data and getting reports out, and that was probably the last time I wore a tie, to be honest. That was instrumental in learning about all our data and databases and the web. So this was back in '99, and the internet. There were all these American companies making raising millions of dollars for these crazy ideas, and I had an idea as well. Because after living in Brisbane, it was impossible to find out what was going on, right? You either had to know someone who knew everything, or pick up the 15 different papers and magazines to find out, what was happening. And so it's like, why don't we set up a website for this? And so an IT guy I knew from Energex, and my brother who was here at the time, we sat down in the Adrenaline Sports Bar, which doesn't exist anymore, and we set up a website. So, as I said, Brisbane247.com. We each put in $500, so we were able to buy our domain name with that. We paid the $90 to register the business name and George Street. Got a bank account, set up our hosting, put some ads in Scene magazine, a waste of time. But that was, we had our business. But another book which is really good, even today, is The E-Myth, which some of you may know, or you should do. And that really talks about like tech companies who never get anywhere, because it doesn't matter if you've got the best website or the best product. If you don't have your marketing and your sales worked out, it's a waste of time. If nobody visits your website, what's the point? Also, similarly, if you're great at sales and you don't have the tech and the marketing sorted, you'll soon get caught out. So we registered, the website, and off we go. We started to sponsor events, and the funny thing with the name Brisbane 24/7, I always remember back at when we sponsored the Jazz Festival in Kangaroo Point, the announcer going, and thanks to Brisbane247.com. This has gone on for years, and so if you've got a company which no one knows how to spell, always make sure, especially when you're dealing with journalists as well on like the phone, you tell them it's written my247.com.au and write it in those syllables, because it's happened many times over the years. So, how do you go about setting up a website? One of the things we need to do is get the data of all our venues, and unlike today, none of it was online, and if Yellow Pages was anything to go by, it was rubbish. That's why we started up the business. And so the way we had to do it in the old days, we walked the streets, and I have walked every street of most cities in Australia with questionnaires, going into venues, getting their opening times, all their details, all the things you can find on the webpage. Because that was how we were able to build our listings from the start. I would be going in, I'd be doing this at midnight, and it was quite funny watching, well not funny, but watching the flood videos of Rosalie. I remember when I was out there at 2 o'clock in the morning, making sure we've got the best guide to Rosalie on the planet. And we got all the data, and that's how we built our free listings. And so it's like, okay, we've got to make some money out of this, so what are we going to sell? The result was an enhanced package. And how much are we going to sell it for? Picked a number out of the air now. We went for $100 for a year listing on our website, which we thought was fair, because we